The Horn of Africa is no stranger to political upheaval, with its history marked by shifting alliances, civil wars, and struggles for autonomy. But today, the rift between Somalia and Somaliland stands out as a defining crisis, shaping the region's politics and daily lives. For over 30 years, Somaliland has operated as a self-governing state, building its own institutions, holding regular elections, and maintaining relative stability. Yet it remains unrecognized by the international community. This unresolved status lies at the heart of the conflict, fueling tension and uncertainty for millions living along the border. Somaliland argues it's not seceding, but rather withdrawing from a union that collapsed in 1991 after years of violence and instability. Meanwhile, Somalia's government insists that any breakaway threatens the country's territorial integrity and undermines hopes for national unity. Both sides remain locked in a political stalemate, with leaders on each side unwilling to compromise or find common ground. Recent economic competition, foreign investment in key ports, and regional power plays have only deepened the divide, drawing in outside interests and raising the stakes as the risk of open conflict grows. The future of the Horn of Africa may hinge on whether Mogadishu and Hargeisa can step back from the brink, find a path to dialogue, and avoid a crisis that could destabilize the entire region. The disputed regions of Sool, Sanaag, and parts of Togdheer are flashpoints claimed by both Somaliland and Somalia, but the reality is shaped by powerful divided clans. Somaliland cites colonial borders, while Puntland, a Somali federal state, claims kinship ties to the dominant clans there. Local populations, caught between rival administrations, have formed militias and rejected Hargeisa's authority. In 2023, La Sanaag erupted in violence, displacing thousands and exposing Somaliland's limited control. External actors, including Puntland and Mogadishu, are accused of fueling the conflict, turning local grievances into a national crisis. For residents, the struggle is less about borders and more about self-determination amid ongoing instability. Economic rivalry is intensifying the Somalia-Somaliland divide, as both sides vie for control over lucrative resources and strategic infrastructure. At the heart of this contest lies the port of Berbera, a vital gateway on the Gulf of Aden that has become a symbol of ambition and sovereignty for Somaliland. Major UAE investment has rapidly transformed Berbera into a modern commercial hub, fueling Somaliland's hopes for international recognition and economic self-reliance. But Mogadishu's government views these foreign deals as illegal, issuing stern warnings to investors and arguing that national assets are being sold without its consent. The competition doesn't stop at the port, it extends deep into the ground, where the promise of oil has drawn international interest and heightened the stakes. Somaliland has signed exploration deals with foreign companies, hoping to unlock new revenue streams and further its quest for independence. Yet Somalia insists that only its federal government can authorize such agreements, challenging the legitimacy of Somaliland's contracts. Every new project becomes a political flashpoint, with both sides fiercely defending their claims and viewing economic control as essential to their legitimacy and future. Instead of bringing shared prosperity, these valuable assets have become sources of tension, fueling disputes, and deepening mistrust. Ultimately, the battle over ports and oil is about more than economics. It's a struggle for the right to govern, to be recognized, and to exist as a state on the world stage. The Somalia-Somaliland dispute has become a stage for regional and global rivalries. The UAE backs Somaliland through port investments and security ties, seeking influence on the Gulf of Aden. Turkey and Qatar support Somalia, providing aid and military training, while Ethiopia's 2024 commander in Tuain Adab border Subrinder Tubail with Somaliland for sea access shook the region. Somalia called the Ethiopia deal an act of aggression, prompting Egypt and Eritrea to back Mogadishu. These alliances have polarized the conflict, making compromise harder. International involvement emboldens both sides to hold firm, raising the risk of escalation. Instead of resolving tensions, outside powers have made a solution more elusive. Somalia's internal instability, marked by political infighting and the al-Shabaab insurgency, weakens its hand in dealing with Somaliland. The government's limited control and constant security crises make negotiations difficult. Somaliland points to its own stability as proof it should not rejoin a chaotic Somalia. Meanwhile, Mogadishu's leaders, fearing political backlash, double down on national unity. Rivalries with federal states like Puntland further complicate the picture, as local actions can escalate tensions with Hargeisa. The lack of a unified national strategy leaves the dispute unresolved and increasingly dangerous. At its core, this conflict is about identity and history. Somalilanders see independence as reclaiming a nation lost in a failed union, shaped by a distinct colonial past and memories of brutal repression. Generations have grown up under their own flag, making reunification unthinkable for many. In the south, the dream of a united Somalia remains powerful, and Somaliland's breakaway is seen as a painful loss. Nationalist sentiment on both sides makes compromise politically risky. Leaders are trapped by public opinion and the weight of history. The dispute is not just political, it's a clash of deeply held identities. Tensions have reached a boiling point after Somaliland's 2024 port deal with Ethiopia, a move that has sent shockwaves throughout the Horn of Africa and beyond. The agreement offered Ethiopia long-sought sea access in exchange for the possibility of recognizing Somaliland's independence, a prospect that has dramatically shifted regional dynamics. Somalia immediately condemned the deal, calling it an act of aggression and a violation of its sovereignty, rallying support from neighboring countries and international organizations, and effectively halting any hope of renewed talks between the two sides. Both sides have hardened their positions, deploying more troops to contested areas and increasing their rhetoric. Meanwhile, violence in the Sool region continues to simmer, with sporadic clashes displacing thousands of civilians. The region's new administration, now aligned with Somalia, has further complicated the situation, deepening divisions among local communities and raising the risk of a much wider conflict that could engulf the entire region. The crisis now threatens to draw in regional powers, including Ethiopia and other neighbors, each with their own interests at stake. If left unchecked, the standoff risks spiraling into a devastating war and a humanitarian disaster for millions. Extremist groups like al-Shabaab could exploit the chaos, gaining ground as instability spreads. Without urgent diplomacy, the unresolved question of Somaliland's status may ultimately be settled not at the negotiating table, but on the battlefield, with consequences that could echo